So we all know the Oddballs out. He's that YouTuber, animator guy who makes a lot of, well, animations. And, well, he is well known for it, and I myself quite enjoy his videos. What happened is, he announced that he was able to have a Netflix show. So, I saw that he had this, and I was skeptical, and yeah, whenever they released a trailer for it, it looked bad. I'm not going to sugarcoat it at all. It looks like it was going to be absolutely terrible.
What are you doing?
Getting set up? This ought to be a train wreck, and I can't wait to see how it unfolds.
The entire thing was unfunny, not entertaining. There was no indication that there was going to be any kind of emotional core or anything to try to make up for the fact that there is no comedy that lands, at least, because they definitely tried to make jokes. But we're gonna get to that later. And yeah, so it looked like it was going to be terrible. And I had my hopes that it wouldn't be, because this is the Oddballs out. He's funny. I like the guy's videos. I was optimistic, and then the show finally did come out. I wasn't able to watch it as soon as it did, but the reasons for which are unrelated to this. But so I watched it. I watched it yesterday, this Thursday, and yeah, it was even worse than I thought it was going to be. So, I'm going to tell you why that is. So, I might as well start off with the characters themselves that the show revolves around. So the show centers around it has a main trio, and it centers around James, Max, and Echo. I hate all three of them. They suck in this show. So James is one of those, like, real annoyingly stubborn, self-righteous, all the time characters. And, like, you can make those work, but, like, James is just annoying. There's nothing about him that I ended up liking in this show. So, like, it's genuinely irritating to watch him most of the time. And not only that, he's one of those characters that gives speeches as well. So the fact that happens, and it happens a lot, doesn't help. He's always just like, oh, I'm the smart guy, I'm the wise guy. You're not. And well, I know that's the point. You didn't have to make it annoying either. To the audience, that is. If it's annoying to the characters, that's fine. But it's not just annoying to the characters. And also, with that, another thing that I think is a problem with James is he draws himself the same way in the show as he does in his YouTube videos, which, in his YouTube videos it works, because he doesn't have the time or budget of a full-on studio, but when it comes to the show, everyone is drawn as if they're from a completely different show as James, so James is the odd one out here. And I'm not sure if that was intentional, but he is distracting. He looks completely uninteresting when compared to the other characters, and that is a problem when he is literally the focus of your show. Wouldn't you so much rather watch something with this guy as the lead? What about this girl? Like, seriously, how do you make your main character look so bland? So, another problem with James is the fact that he is constantly arguing with somebody. I'm pretty sure it's just to pad out time. So, the episodes of this show are full length, and I'm going to get into more detail about why that's an issue later, but as for now, I'm pretty sure they padded it out by just deciding to have James constantly be fighting with someone. And it's not like The Amazing World of Gumball or the Cuphead show, where occasionally there would be an argument, and if it did, it didn't last for that long. No. You see, they made it last in this show for like almost half of the entire episodes. And that is consistent. It is not a one-time problem. And I absolutely hate that. It is irritating, it is graining, and I can't stand seeing it happen for such long periods of time. Once again, in other shows it's fine because they don't do it for very long. But this, nope, that's the show for you. So now that I'm finished talking about James, that leaves two more of the main characters to talk about, and the next one is going to be Max. I absolutely despise Max. So first of all, I'm just going to mention, he is extremely annoying to listen to. Like, his voice, awful. I absolutely hate listening to it, and it's the talking equivalent of nails on a chalkboard. Like, yes, that is not an exaggeration. I am not just saying that because it's a figure of speech. No, it is legitimately that bad to listen to. Also, so Max being a crocodile, they made a bunch of jokes with him and Echo, mind you, so this is a problem spread between two characters instead of just one. Yay! And what it is they just have them be eating all the time. Like, a lot of the time they just have Max and Echo eat something and be like, well, that's funny, that's the joke, and it wouldn't be too bad. I mean, it'd still be bad, but it wouldn't be too bad if they didn't also draw in, like, the saliva, like, in detail. So that really does not sit right with me. I don't know if I'm a germaphobe or a hypochondriac, but, like, it feels wrong to look at. So also with Max, they feel the need as a joke to, like, draw him realistically. They do it, like, every episode, and yet it's not funny ever. It's literally just, oh, you drew him, but with more details, and yet they do it every time. It's kind of a minor thing that they do, but it just really gets under my skin because they think it's as funny as, like, I don't know. They just think it's really funny. It's not. It's not even a joke when you think about it, but they think it is. And then also, Max, now I'm going to actually talk about him as a character, because I've been postponing it this entire time, as I did not want to have to talk about that. So, he is dumb. He is dumb. Like, he's the dumb guy. And so, everyone's dumb in the show. But so, when it comes to Max, like, I'm pretty sure he's brain dead. Like, he literally cannot do anything without just doing something stupid. And it's irritating to watch. In addition to that, because we're still not done talking about things that this character does that are annoying. In addition to this, like, half the time when something bad happens and he reacts to it, they make him just scream, like, loudly and annoyingly and often, and yeah, it's not funny. It's never funny. It's literally just a guy screaming, and once again, they use this as a joke. A lot. And considering how annoying Max's voice is, that makes it 10 times worse than it would have been if it was just anybody else screaming, which would have already not been good to begin with. But hey, who might not just do it with the character who's the most annoying to listen to? I'm sure that's a great idea. So another problem I have with Max, if you wanted to consider it a problem, which you could say that it doesn't matter, and I guess it doesn't matter, but it still just doesn't sit right with me, is the fact that they didn't use him, like, as the character he is. And what I mean by that is, what he is a failed genetic experiment with, like, crocodiles and stuff, and they don't do anything with that. The first episode of the show didn't need him to be a genetic experiment. Like, nothing is added because of that, and it bothers me. The first episode instead just focuses on how awful his parents are, rather than, like, how he's a freak of nature. And I don't know, I think that's something that they should have at least done something with at some point. As for Echo, she's just kind of there, like, to be just sort of a cop-out for any consequences of what happens. Like, there are a few times where she just fixes everything for James and Max, and it feels cheap. It feels cheap. And then also, just, she's eating all the time, But then another thing is, there's an entire episode dedicated to how out of touch she is, and oh my god, it is the most annoying thing ever. It is the worst episode of the show. It is called Beyond Frenemy Lines. And yeah, it's trash. But to be fair, that's just the show in general, so, I mean, it's not an exception of any kind. Now, in regards to the side characters, the only character in the entire show that I legitimately liked was Mr. McFly. Because he was an underdog. He actually had some funny moments. He was sympathetic. I liked to see him succeed. Like, that guy was cool. I liked that guy. But, like, with the other side characters, they're just kind of archetypes, like the same characters you've seen in a million other things. They're just extremely basic. Like, oh look, we have a goth, but this time they're a unicorn. That makes it unique. Oh look, we have a bully, but this time it's a slime. That also makes it unique. We're getting really wild with our characters here. They're stereotypical, in fact, like literally no depth at all. Just basic characters. But I will give credit where credit is due. With the exception of James himself, who feels completely out of place, the character designs in the show are actually pretty good. So now that I'm done talking about the characters, I am now going to talk about the style of comedy. And for the most part, the comedy in the show falls flat. Occasionally there's a joke that's actually good. None of them made me laugh. The problem with how the show presents its comedy is either a joke is so nonsensical and random that it just is confusing to look at. Like this.
Yes! You chose me!
How is that supposed to be a joke that just is random and not in like a it's so absurd it's funny way? No, it literally is just weird. The problem with the other jokes is that they actually did have potential to be good, but the comedic timing is off. Take this one from the first episode as an example.
I'm gonna go give Toasty his bath. Toasty hated his bath.
Okay, that wasn't funny, but they had a joke there. Now watch what happens when I change the comedic timing.
I'm gonna go give Toasty his bath. Toasty hated his bath.
Isn't that so much better? And also with the jokes, with the exception of the ones that are so random I don't even think they qualify as jokes, the ones that aren't, just out of nowhere, are so painfully predictable that you already know what the joke is going to be way before it even happens. And you're just waiting for it to happen, and then waiting for it to not be funny, because it never is. Another problem this show has is the fact that it decided to have full-length episodes, and why? Why would you do that? Every time I watched an episode of this show, I watched all of them, by the way, mind you, so don't just say, I'm hating something I haven't watched. No, I watched every episode. Like, every time I watched one, I was hoping it would get better, but it didn't. But so, the thing is, when watching each episode, every single one of them, halfway through, I thought, how much longer is this? And I looked at how much longer I had, and I was only halfway through. This show... Why? Why would you make full-length episodes if you clearly can't write for something that long? You see, once again, the Cuphead show and The Amazing World of Gumball don't have full-length episodes. They have 11-minute episodes. So, they understand that if they can't... If their writing style doesn't match the episode length of a full-on episode, they're just going to air 2 at a time in the case of The Amazing World of Gumball. And in the case of the Cuphead show, they don't need to because it's on a streaming service. So, Oddballs, once again, it's painful to sit through because you have to be there for the entire episode. And once again, I mentioned this before. I think that's why they made James argue with people so often as filler. Because they couldn't, like, make a plot that supports as long as it did. And And that's the thing as well. The plots in the show are completely unfocused most of the time. So, like, for example, there's an episode where James doesn't want to do squats for his gym class. So he starts donating blood after faking, like, having a certain condition that made it so that he couldn't do squats. And then, like, so he starts getting senior discounts and stuff because people think he's an old person. So you think, okay, so that's what the premise of the episode is going to be about. He's going to see the benefits and drawbacks of being old while not actually being old, so that in the next episode he can be young again. But no, seriously, halfway through he gets kidnapped by a bunch of Girl Scouts who want a badge for kidnapping old people and putting them in retirement homes. And then he sees a guy from an earlier episode that he had an emotional battle with. And when I say emotional battle, they literally fought each other using emotions, but both of them cheated. And so that guy is also donating blood to pretend to be an old person, and then they just have an old person fight, and it's painfully slow, because, you know, old people aren't able to move that fast. So you just have to sit there and watch it happen. And this is just one episode, and they wrote, like, the plot for 2 episodes, and not only that, but the plot for the second half with the other guy who's pretending to be old, it's boring. It doesn't, it's literally just really boring, which this show also is, because once again, they have to stretch it out to fill a full episode length instead of just making non-full episodes. Just make half episodes like other shows do. I don't know why they didn't just do that, because then the show would have actually been able to have decent pacing. So this isn't as big of an issue, but there's an episode as well where a scam artist tries to get James on his own in his house because he's alone. So the good thing is Max is barely in the episode because supposedly he's at school. But so the guy, he just breaks into James's house, keeps on telling him, "Hey, buy my security system." James says no, and then James uses a different skill he acquired at school to get rid of the guy in some way. And this happens multiple times over several minutes, and it's literally just the same joke each time. James goes, "You made me use some subject on my day off," because James is skipping school. And yeah, so then scammer guy installs the system and then tries to attack James with it after tricking him into signing a thing to have the guy own his house, James's house. And then, so, it's just the same thing. Like, the guy, instead of fighting a guy with school subjects, James starts fighting robots, like lasers and stuff, with school subjects. And they do the same thing. He still goes, "You made me use this school subject on my day off." It is actually just painful. And the weird thing is, this is more of just a weird thing. The guy who voices the scammer is Ryan George, of all people. I don't know, that decision is just baffling to me. It's such a weird choice, especially considering that this show is something you would expect Ryan George to make fun of in one of his own videos, but oh well. At the end of the day, this won't hinder my enjoyment of Ryan George or The Odd Ones Out, because I can just disconnect myself from thinking about this show ever again, and their channels are their own thing from it. But yeah, overall, my expectations for this show were very low, and I was still disappointed with how bad it was. So, I would say half a star out of 5, do not watch it, unless you are extremely curious. I don't recommend it at all. And if you want to know, the best episode is Wanted Dead or Fly, which I think is a 4 out of 10, and the worst episode is Behind Frenemy Lines, which I think is a 1 out of 10. So, yeah, good night, everybody.